Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to the Living Rightsized Podcast. Today we have a fantastic episode with Zach Gariti. He is the CEO and co-owner of Reavanti, which is a company that helps seniors in downsizing with dignity and ease. And in this episode, we'll be discussing the emotional and logistical challenges of downsizing, how a senior move manager can make transitions smoother and less stressful. And then towards the end, Zach will share some invaluable tips for anyone looking to declutter, downsize, and tips on preparing for the move. Enjoy the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Living Rightsized Podcast, where we talk about simplifying, downsizing, and living with intention. I'm your host, Joey Sampaga, here to share stories and expert tips to help you live right-sized in any season of life. I'd like to welcome our special guest, Zach Gariti. He is the CEO and co-owner of Reavanti. And Reavanti is an amazing company that helps seniors downsize with dignity and ease. And they offer decluttering, settling in, and moving day assistance. Zach, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited to share your knowledge with our audience. I guess the first thing I wanted to ask you, you look like a young guy, right? And you work with seniors. I'm just curious, what inspired you to start working in this specific field?
Yeah, absolutely. So our family started the company up in Wisconsin about 11 years ago. And it started with the conference. So we're part of a National Association of Senior Move Managers, and it's called NASM. And their whole goal is to help seniors who are going through transition throughout the entire country. We follow a very strict code of ethics just to make sure the seniors prioritized and safe throughout the entire process. So one year, my mom felt inspired to start helping some seniors and went to conference just to get a feel for it, see if it might be interesting. And sure enough, it was her calling in life. And so I was in high school at the time. And so I was really just kind of there to help if needed, if she needed any help moving or anything like that. When I went to college, I started helping with more background admin things. And then when we moved to Arizona a few years ago, we still knew there was a very substantial need for it here in Arizona. And when I was an undergrad, I did a lot of research on stress, stress reduction and sort of at least kind of monitoring it. So it felt like just a very natural and wonderful opportunity for me here in Arizona.
Oh, well, no, that's great. That's great. And you mentioned a senior move manager. Explain what that is.
Yeah. So a senior move manager is sort of that main overseer of the entire moving process for a senior. So although the physical move is definitely a component of that, seniors have so many other aspects going on through that transition. And the main goal of that move manager is just to be that point of contact for that senior in transition, try to reduce as many stressors as possible for that senior. So I always like to sort of make an analogy of if you were to, move or downsize, try to write like a little to-do list of everything that you had to do. So it's not just move, right? You usually have to pack, unpack, figure out what you're taking, not taking, sell items, and the list can just kind of go on and on and on. And what we typically see with our seniors is just very overwhelming. Sometimes to the point where they don't even know if they can do it. So really the whole senior move manager is, while we do assist with the physical move, it's so much more than that. It's prioritizing, the emotional side, the physical side to help make the transition as stress-free as possible.
I can totally understand the whole stress. I mean, even if you're a younger guy or a younger family or a younger person, it can be stressful. There was one story I wanted to quickly tell because it just reminded me, or you just reminded me of it, is that I had a client. His name was Barry, and he was an older gentleman, a very, very amazing and kind man. And we actually hung out and just listening to his stories whenever we would go to lunch. I'm like, wow, you did all that. But anyway, I was helping him move, and he actually hired an organizer. Okay, and I didn't know much about the business, at least um, specifically for seniors, but he hired an organizer, and she did a great job. She helped them. She helped pack and get rid of a bunch of things and get things donated. But I know that Barry was going through some very stressful times, and he happened to be diabetic, and I know that his blood level was going up, and or sugar levels were going up, and he drove one day, and because of his stresses that he was going through the move, because he was in an apartment for a long time, and so he had a bunch of stuff there. But anyway, he was driving, and I guess something happened, and he ended up crashing, and he didn't make it. And his house closed like 3 days prior to then, and I was so devastated. And then his sister came and had to take care of all the logistics and all that. But anyway, that's what it reminded me of. So I'm guessing that your services help lower that stress level, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just even yesterday, I was meeting with a couple, and they're getting ready to move. They're both over 90 years old. They've only moved one other time in their life, so they've been in this house, for over 40 years. And they just feel there's no possible way I could ever get out of this house. Like I know I want to move. It's going to be safer for me if I move. I can start being social again. Isolation is definitely something that we see sometimes. And within 5 minutes of just talking with us, they're like, wow, this is like a godsend, like miracles happen. I didn't even know that this existed, and it's just what we needed. And then we started getting into a more fun conversation of, oh yeah, this community does this too, and this community does this too. And you could sort of already start hearing and feeling the relief, just knowing that they weren't alone, because a lot of times people don't know that such a service exists, and they feel like they have to do it themselves.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So with the challenges of and stresses, what do you find that seniors and their families have when it comes to, let's say, downsizing or decluttering or moving?
Yeah, I think the biggest stress is just when they look in their space and they just see all of the items and the emotions attached to these items. I think that's typically not always, but it can be a paralyzing situation sometimes. There's just so many potential starting points, and it just seems like sometimes an insurmountable task. So what we try to do is just, first prioritize, the essential items. There's this book that I highly recommend if you have a chance. It's called Let It Go by Peter Walsh. And he sort of references these nuggets, these golden nuggets that are just, the core, most essential, bring you the most happiness, the most utility. These are the items that you definitely want to take with you. Those are the easy ones. Then on the flip side, you have the items that you definitely don't want. Typically, there's at least a couple things in your space that that you probably don't really need. And then we usually have the maybe pile. So things that, if it works out, it works out. But if not, then we can have that conversation later. So I think it's really important to try to get some sort of momentum going. I usually recommend even starting in a really low stress area. For example, an extra bedroom closet is always a perfect starting point. Typically that is excess, a lot less. There's maybe not quite as many sentimental items in there. And it just starts the process. It starts making you comfortable and feel like you are able to do it, because I promise you are. I promise it's not an impossible task. But sometimes just that starting point it's really difficult to get over.
Yeah. My wife and we have been downsizing for a while, because we used to live in a home that was 2,500 square foot. It was just her and I, and we had a couple dogs at the time. And we decided to try the urban life. And of course, we moved into an apartment first, just to rent an apartment in the city, downtown Phoenix, just to see how we like it. Well, we ended up loving it. So we bought a condo here, but from 2,500 square foot to just under 1,200 square foot, having to deal with all the furniture and the extra things that we had, and we really didn't know how much stuff we had until we started to move out. But at the same time, when we were preparing to move out, we started to downsize. We sold a bunch of stuff. We donated a few things, gave a lot of things away. And one of the things, I read the book by Marie Kondo. It's called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Was one of the challenges I had personally was getting rid of all the sentimental things that we had. Like let's say T-shirts with that I never wore, but they were just kind of a souvenir from a concert or something. And what Marie Kondo was saying was, hold it up, say, does this bring me joy? I mean, the thought of, it brought me joy because I loved that concert and I remembered it, but I really didn't wear that T-shirt, so it just took a bunch of space. So what I ended up doing was taking pictures of it and then donating the shirt or giving it away. So what would you suggest, or what type of tips would you give in regard to handling those sentimental items?
Right. Yeah. And I think just you're right on with taking the pictures. You can just think you have a hutch that you really love, or the picture of the hutch, the memory is still there. The physical difference is not. So I think pictures are awesome. And then sometimes too, I think trying to reframe it in your mind a little bit about the item. I think sometimes one of the main, worries about your item is you love it and you don't think anyone else possibly would take care of it. And I would argue that there are so many wonderful, charities that we work with, and people would be thrilled for these items. So when we're working with clients, we really try not to throw anything away, unless it's absolutely unusable. We have so many different charities to donate items to. Even, half-used shampoo sometimes can mean the world to somebody who hasn't been able to use shampoo for a while. So I think just because you're letting it go, you still have all the memories associated with it. And sometimes I think it could feel nice that, you're letting someone else now enjoy it also. So I think that's just another great way to start. Maybe try to reframe it in your mind a little bit, that just because you're letting it go doesn't mean it's going to be wasted.
No, that's a good point there. And so this is something that senior move managers like yourself does kind of give them guidance in that respect, right?
Right, exactly. And just to sort of paint the scene a little of how it feels, we might go into an area like the closet. We usually, get our clients a chair and maybe some water. It's not atypical for people to not want to drink or eat during the stressful time. So we know it's important to kind of reinforce that as well. And we're really just there kind of as a guide. A really essential part of the move management process is that they're still the one in control. They're still the one making decisions. So often it might feel like, they're losing control. They're losing their grasp on so many aspects of their life. So we try to, bring it back to them. And, we'll show them different items, that they may or may not want, and just have the conversations with them. Identify again, like I was mentioning earlier, like the favorites, because most people have their favorite, few outfits that they prioritize over the others. So just having those conversations with them and try to start forming those piles of definitely yes, definitely no, and then kind of try to work our way through.
No, that makes sense, to make them feel like they're still in control, which they are. You're just giving them guidance and giving them comfort, knowing that they're still in control. Now, in regard to moving, I know that, there are a lot of moves, of course, that happen local, but I'm just curious with the senior move managers. So let's say someone was moving from California to here in, let's say, the Phoenix metro. Do you actually fly out there and then help them start there and then go with them through the process?
Yeah. So that's sort of one of the fun aspects of being part of our national organization, is that every state has someone similar to us regarding in what they do. And what I mean by that is, since we're part of NASM, we know that if we connect them with somebody in California who's also part of NASM, they're going to be treated really well. They have a very high code of ethics at that place as well. And what we would do is we'd be in constant communication with that move manager in the other state. So for example, let's say they're in California, that company would be sending us, the floor layout, the items, sort of where the plates go, where they want the pictures hung. So that way, when we receive the items, then we know exactly where they're going. And this is just, again, a nice step of helping the senior feel like the transition is not a crazy change of life. And it's going to be smooth the whole way. We all are our own private companies, and we all, handle the process in our own unique ways, but the overarching goal is the same, of reducing stress for the senior, making sure they feel safe and comfortable throughout the process. And we just communicate a ton, especially for the interstate move, because, we're two companies working together, helping a united bike pirate.
Okay. Well, no, that makes complete sense. So it also sounds like, as a senior move manager, or your company in general, works with other services that provide senior or services to seniors specifically. With me being a real estate agent, now I'm designated as it's called a senior real estate specialist, the SRES, from the NAR, National Association of Real Estate. And when we took that class and that certification, they actually teach us how to work with seniors and what type of services there are. So I'm guessing that you are a conglomerate of basically a big team that works together and say, hey, let's do this. And then let's make it easiest and simplest for our clients.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So all of us throughout the country, and even us in particular. So we've gone through dementia training. So our staff were familiar with, working with clients with dementia, trying to make it as, as unsettling, avoiding any of that as we can. Because moving can be a very, very stressful situation for someone who has dementia if you can't recreate the space. We've even had clients, who they were moving into memory care. So we took, pictures of every single shelf, every single wall, every single aspect. Even like their bed was made a certain way. The pillows were arranged in a certain way. So that way, when they walk into their new space, it feels almost like they haven't moved. We want them to feel like they've been there for years and that it's a very comfortable and safe environment.
Wow. I didn't even think about that. So you're basically taking what they remember of home, where they felt comfortable, and just basically picking everything up and moving it to the new space.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So with that, I'm just curious myself. I know that you don't just, your company doesn't just work with seniors, but what are your other demographics that you work with?
Yeah. So the vast majority, I would say, are definitely seniors. But we've helped, tons of clients in tons of other situations. So another aspect of NASIM's specialty, so kind of just doing more unique move situations. So I've helped, he's 30 years old, and he was moving to Spain. So I helped, we helped pack him up, and he said he wanted to keep some things to Spain. So we packed those, everything else he wanted to, sell and start relatively fresh in Spain. We've helped a couple, they were in their 40s, and they just had a ton of other life demands going on. They weren't able to get their house, ready for the closing date, which was, in approaching relatively quickly. So we were able to come in and get that done in a couple of days and kind of, release that as well. And we've even helped a college kid move once. So really, the age range is really anybody who might just need help with that stressful task. Absolutely.
Yeah. So did you get to go to Spain when you were helping?
No. Next time I'll find a way to go to Spain with them.
Yeah, I probably would have made that a special case. I'll be like, okay, well, I'll have to help you move in Spain as well.
Yeah, exactly. That helped me help there too. Exactly.
So when people move, I know that some people would hire like a mover, someone to come in, professional movers. They would come in, they would pack everything for them, and then they would load it and then unload it. Sometimes they'll take it out of the, the boxes and just kind of leave it on the counters and say, okay, here you go. We're done. Pay us our money and we're out of here. But what is the differences between, with your company versus, let's say, a typical mover or people of those types of services?
Yeah, absolutely. So movers, I mean, they definitely provide a very essential service in that transition process. But I think there are just so many other pieces to that puzzle that the movers might not be able to handle just as specialized as a move manager. So what I mean by that, so a lot of times when we're doing the downsizing, they're moving into spaces that, of course, are smaller than their current. So it's really important to do floor layouts. So that's almost always our first step is we measure, the furniture, see what will go where. We have a little magnetic board our clients usually love to play with where they can have, correctly dimensioned pieces on like on a little map of their new room. And they're able to arrange it and they see, oh man, my love seat and sectional are on top of each other. Maybe I can't take both. And we just start having those conversations. So that way on move day, we know that the items, they all fit. We lay them out on the actual space. So we usually go to their new place. So that way it's very clear and you can visualize it in real space as well. We know that it's not going to be any, safety concerns. Things aren't going to be like falling on top of each other. Carpets is something that we usually even warn about just because it's such an easy tripping hazard. A lot of rugs, they start sometimes, folding up or something. Coax cables, where are those going to be plugged in? Where outlets, just things like that to make sure the room is, functional the way that they want it as well. And then beyond that too is sometimes people, they don't really know what they want to take. So they just take everything, even if they don't really want it. And that, again, that clutters up the space. It makes it less comfortable, less safe. So just taking care of that in the front end is usually a huge relief when you get to your new space. So just making sure the process is a lot smoother and just, there's less demand on the senior is awesome. And then sort of to kind of extend, once a client moves, sometimes quite often there are pieces that they were not able to take. So we're able to stay with them throughout that process and help them sell items, donate items. If they need any help cleaning, doing handyman work, really anything to get that house, staged and ready to go. They have me as well. So they get that one point of contact throughout the entire process versus just the mover who arrives on move day, moves and then leaves things away.
Yeah. No, well, I know that when we moved, we did hire movers and they somewhat helped us pack and, they weren't very gentle with some of the things. And it also sounds like, I mean, you guys probably come in there not just the day of the move, but it sounds like you go there maybe a few days or even maybe a week or two or I don't know, a few weeks. Is that right?
Yeah. And so all of our clients are totally unique. So some people, they have their to-do list, they already sort of did the sorting and they just need us to come in and pack. I've worked with clients for over a year before. They were being awesome and proactive, which I'd highly recommend. And basically we would come in just like one time a week, and just, see how they're doing. We'd guide them through these different rooms, give them some suggestions, assign them homework, to complete by the next time. So that way, when we were there, they were making progress at their own pace. They didn't feel like they were, being rushed along. And I think that is another awesome aspect.
No, that totally makes sense. And then I do like the fact that while you guys are there and if it's in the process of packing or downsizing or decluttering or whatever it is, you're making sure that it's safe for your clients to walk around when you guys leave. Right. Because, when you're moving, typically things are just scattered all over the place. And there's definitely a tripping hazard. So,
and we've been called into situations where, a client moved without a move manager and I arrived to his apartment and he just had a wall of boxes in his apartment. And he's been looking for his can opener for like a month or two and he just wasn't even able to access the boxes. So we came in and we started putting things away. Maybe that's even another aspect is, movers will like physically unpack, but they won't make it look nice and feel nice. And we have that, that training to make it feel like a really nice environment. So when he had his can opener, he was thrilled. He started opening right away that he was probably itching to get out for like a month.
No, that's great. Well, you've told us some stories of different clients. I'm just curious, is there one that stands out, like something that was unique or interesting that you're like, whoa, this is different?
Yeah. I had one client, they were doing a pretty substantial reduction. I want to say it was over 3,000 square feet into about a 680 square foot unit. So pretty substantial. As nice as can be couple. And the husband, who had Alzheimer's. And one of his favorite things was Star Trek. If it was on and he had his chair pointed at the TV, he was calm and happy as could be. So that was my like priority A on that move day, is to make sure I had the TV not only installed, like we can, get them installed and do all of those things, but had it set to Star Trek and had his chair positioned correctly. And so when he did the move, we had everything else situated, and when we had that Star Trek on, it was funny. The wife was thrilled and she was crying and happy that the space felt so good. But he just walked right to his chair and sat right down and watched Star Trek. And it felt like, he didn't move, which was my goal, right? I wanted him to feel like it was a familiar environment. So that one was a fun one.
Yeah, no, I know that Trekkies, when their show comes on, they're watching it. And I remember growing up when I was a child, my parents used to watch that all the time. And then I really didn't get into Star Trek too much. But however, when the movies came out, I was like, whoa, these are actually really good. So I'm more of a Star Wars person, but anyway, Star Trek is good too. All right. So if a person is getting ready to move, and let's say they're just not thinking about hiring a senior move manager at that time, what type of tips can you give them to either get ready to hire someone or to start to pack on their own until they decide, what, this is probably too much and I need to hire someone?
Yeah. I think it's never too early to start. I think the reason why it becomes such a stressful moment is because people, they prolong the process by delaying it. I recommend even like 15 minutes a day. And I think you'll be amazed at the progress that you start making. So I think I see, so many times people just like, oh my gosh, I'm in panic. I have a week to do my whole house. So I think, step one would be, would be to start early. Another, easy, I think you mentioned, like, does this bring me joy? I think that's awesome. So another thing too is if you find some items that you feel like you probably haven't used for a while, I think which items I might be talking about. If you put them in a box, and you don't open that box for 6 months and you don't even think about the items for 6 months, that might be a good indicator that that item is not super essential. Worst case scenario, you probably can buy a new toaster if you need one, right? Or things like that. So, even most of our clients, they don't even plan on cooking, but they want to take a lot of their cooking items. So I think, just trying to identify those essential items that, bring, and then to me, I want it to bring you a lot of joy or a lot of utility. You use it all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then finally, things that are really sentimental, like pictures, for example. I think that one's always hard. Each picture brings back a great memory. So, finding your favorite show and just starting to, work through those, just, one little clip at a time. There are wonderful, wonderful resources out there for almost everything. And you can get them all digitized. So that's something that I might recommend if you're feeling inspired. They'll scan all of the pictures and they put them on a few different discs for you, just in case, you need some backups. And then that way they're on just something this big versus, your box of books. So I think just, trying to start small, trying to get momentum, knowing that you can do it, I think is an awesome, essential first step.
No, that's definitely important to get started early, because people don't realize how much stuff they have until they start moving it. Because, I was thinking, 3 days to pack everything up, we're good. And, so when my wife and I decided to move, I had that mentality. 3 days, we got this. And then when we started to put things together, and we're like, oh boy, there's a lot more stuff here. So no, those are great tips. Great tips. All right. I Is there anything else before we get into our next round here, or we call it the quick fire round? But before we jump into that, was there anything else that you wanted our audience to know about who you are and about more about your company?
Yeah. Just kind of getting back to that, trying to reduce stress aspect a little bit. We always try to break our everything up into, more manageable bite-sized chunks. So sort of as I've been referencing throughout, starting with that extra closet is great. When we work with our clients, we usually even break things up into phase 1 and phase 2. And what I mean by that is typically, and like that couple I was referencing that we even met with yesterday, where they were thinking, months ahead. They're not even planning on moving yet. They were talking like months ahead, and they had no idea what to do with the items, out there. And I tried to kind of reel her back in, and let's just focus on, what we're doing on Monday. I want to, we're just worried about this. This is all we need to get the house, staged up and looking good. We're not ready to, pack those items and just try to bring it into more manageable. And I think that was another reason for her relief is she didn't have to worry, 5 months in advance. Let's just worry about one step at a time. So getting them to their new space, getting them safe and comfortable into their new spaces, part one, I want to make sure that happens first. Then I can worry about the items on the back end. And kind of like I've referenced, we're happy to, help sell those items. We have different partners that we use. We usually don't do estate sales. We find that those are often a lot more stressful for our clients, people walking around, their items that they may or may not want to necessarily let go. I don't want to work on the timeline of the estate sale company. Sometimes they're booked out several weeks in advance and can only come on weekends, whereas we can kind of get that process started immediately and get the items out. So really, we're just tailored to help reduce, stresses as much as possible. And it's really awesome coming in and feeling that overwhelmed feeling just kind of dissipate as I'm talking. It's my favorite part.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I'm just curious, you know how mechanics, usually their cars are the last ones, their own cars are the last ones that work or that they work on. I'm just curious, with you helping decluttering and organizing, is that how you live your life? I mean, are you pretty
I have to say, I live a pretty Spartan lifestyle. Yeah, so I have, I say I'm definitely on that minimalist side. I have some nice pictures. I'd say pictures. Like I like to travel and take photography and things like that. So I have that is around, but other than that, my house is pretty bare. I have the essentials, but yeah.
Well, it's always good to hire someone who actually lives the life.
Right. It feels good. So I just want others to experience it.
No, it absolutely does. Because when we downsized our stuff, it just felt so good.
Exactly.
And my wife and I, we have this rule: if we buy one thing, we get rid of one or two things of the same type.
Awesome.
So if I buy a new pair of shoes, guess what? I need to get rid of one pair of shoes or two.
I like it. That's a great mentality. Absolutely.
All right. So are you ready for the quick fire round? And, we're just going to have fun. They're just going to be rapid fire. Are you ready for that?
Yep. Ready.
Okay. Here we go. What is your favorite movie or streaming series on, let's say, Netflix, Amazon, or whatever?
I really like It's a Wonderful Life. That one, it just makes me feel really good every time I watch it. So it's my favorite.
Yeah, we love that movie. Every Christmas we watch it, along with Die Hard.
Oh, that's another great Christmas movie. I just learned it was a Christmas movie recently.
Yeah. All right, who's your favorite superhero?
I got to do Captain America, I think. I grew up watching Marvel, and then when I was in college, my roommate and I watched every single Marvel movie leading up into Endgame. And Captain America was just that main guy throughout. He just always does the right thing. I got to do Captain America.
No, that's awesome. We do that with Star Wars and Back to the Future almost once a year. Okay, how about coffee or tea?
I got to do coffee. I don't drink it too often, but if I need that boost, coffee does the function.
Okay. What's your go-to karaoke song?
It's probably All Shook Up by Elvis. I've done some networking events where karaoke was the core of that event, and I learned that one I'm kind of good at singing, and B, everyone else kind of gets into it. And my mom always kind of likes to say I look like Elvis, so I don't know if I'm trying to face that or
there
not.
You go. No, that's awesome. And then one last question. What is your favorite childhood snack?
I think it's fruit snacks. I've always liked those. I still like those, and I eat probably too many of them, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, okay. No, fruit snacks are good. I like Twinkies, although I shouldn't be
Mm,
eating Twinkies now.
those are good too. I haven't had Twinkie for a while.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So, Zach, you provided some great information. And if anyone wants to contact you, if they have any questions about just moving in general or downsizing or decluttering, is that okay for them to contact you?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Happy
and
to
of
talk.
course, if you have any info, if you want more information about Reavanti, about their services, please do contact Zach. I'll make sure that his contact information is in the show notes. So make sure to go down there and get his information and contact him. We'll have his email and his phone number. Is that okay, Zach?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope you learned from this. I know I certainly did. And you definitely enlightened me on what senior move managers do, because that's definitely an essential, in my opinion, an essential service for our seniors or for anyone in general who doesn't want to go through that stress of moving. So, Zach, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. And I wanted to thank all of you, our audience, the Living Right-Sized Podcast audience, for joining us. And if you have any questions or comments, please post them in the comment section below. And please subscribe to the channel and like this video. And if you happen to know someone who could use this helpful information, or who you know is going to be moving here soon and they're stressed out, please provide Zach's information and pass on this video, and we would greatly appreciate that. So until next time, have an amazing day. Take care and God bless. Bye now. That's perfect. Good job. Zach, you still there? Oh. Froze on the last minute.